you for listening to GCN. Be sure to visit GCNlive.com today.
All right, welcome back to The Bright Side, friends. We're continuing on with our topic of connective tissue, the interconnected, webbed, networked, integrated system that's found throughout the body. This idea that the connective tissue is an integrated whole, even though it's dispersed in various locations and occurs in different forms, is a very important idea for a couple of reasons. First of all, this is how acupuncture works. This is why you can get something stuck into your ear and get effects on your leg. It's how something called myofascial release works as well. Because the connective tissue is an integrated whole, you can work on one part of the body and you can get effects on other parts of the body. The fact that it's an integrated whole also means that we can use building strategies for one part of the body and get effects on other parts of the body. In other words, we can use connective tissue building strategies and supplements like glucosamine, N-acetylglucosamine, high hyaluronic acid, bone soup, bone broth protein. All of these have components and have properties that allow us to build connective tissue. You can use these things for your arthritis, and then the connective tissue that supports and strengthens your blood vessels will be strengthened as well. So that means you can take your glucosamine for your arthritis, you're going to get a better circulatory system, you'll get better heart function. We can use vitamin C for our circulatory vessels, and we'll be supporting the strength of our connective tissue, and our brain connective tissue, and our joint connective tissue, and our digestive tract connective tissue. We'll have less wrinkles too, because the skin's firmness and the skin's tightness and youthfulness are also functions of the health of the connective tissue. The connective tissue makes up about 30% of the body. You can think of it can actually be accurately thought of as an organ. The connective tissue can be thought of as the body's largest organ. In fact, even though we attribute that to the skin, there's far more connective tissue in the body than there is skin. And if I can take a little digression here, we're going to talk more about the idea of using supplements for your connective tissue here in a bit, but if I could take a little digression, and this is kind of interesting, it's also relevant when it comes to health. In addition to its obvious role as a support system, as a linking system that keeps everything in place, all the organs and glands in place, the connective tissue also acts as an information processing system, which is to say, our connective tissue conducts energy in this very interesting fashion that scientists call semiconduction. Our connective tissue is like a semiconductor, which means it's a transistor. It's a computer chip. A computer chip is made up of zillions of transistors, millions of transistors, and a transistor is a semiconductor. Well, our connective tissue has the same function. It acts like a transistor. Yes, our connective tissue is like a computer chip. In fact, because the connective tissue has this liquid gel-like nature, it can change shape like a liquid or a gel can. And because our connective tissue is structured like a crystal, it is laid out from a microscopic standpoint, it's laid out in this regular parallel pattern. It's actually a liquid crystal semiconductor, which gives it much of the same properties as what are known as LCDs, liquid crystal displays, that you find in your computer monitors and televisions and instrument panels on rockets and airplanes and calculators and smartphones and plasma TVs. This is our connective tissue. If we had the detection, if we had the eyes to detect the electrical flow that's going through the connective tissue, it would look like a liquid crystal display. It would look like the kind of display that you have on your computer monitor or on a plasma TV. This is amazing. We are, as human beings, via our connective tissue, we are like walking computers. We are like walking liquid crystal displays. And we'll be talking more about this later, because this information processing capability, this computer-like capability of our connective tissue has a very important role to play in how we respond to injury, how we respond to trauma, the long-term effects of trauma, and how we heal or don't heal. The liquid nature, this gel-like nature of the connective tissue is important because if something creates a hardening effect, that impedes the ability of this liquid gel-like substance to move and conduct a flow of electrical energy, that flow is going to be impeded, information processing will be disrupted, and long-term function is going to decline. And that's where fibrosis comes in. Fibrosis interferes with the electrical flow. It's like having a computer chip that has now been adulterated. You know, when they're making computer chips at Intel or wherever they make computer chips, they've got to wear masks and they've got to use highly sterile techniques and they've got to have super duper clean rooms where you wear little booties, because any piece of dust that gets in the way of the computer chip or when they're manufacturing is going to interfere with its functioning. This is what fibrosis is. Fibrosis is like an adulteration in the computer processor. It interferes with electrical energy, excessive secretion of fibers that occurs in response to chronic, over and over, long-term injury, the kind of chronic, day-to-day long-term injury that occurs after nutritional deficiency, leaky gut syndrome, food toxicity, lack of oxygen, and perhaps most importantly, the reaction between sugar and the connective gel. All of this functions as an adulterating agent that interferes with the electrical flow, the computer and information processing properties of our connective tissue. This is where pain comes in. This is where inflammation comes in. This is where loss of function comes in. If this occurs in the brain, which is super dependent on the efficient flow of electrical energy, the result is dementias. This is why Alzheimer's is a connective tissue problem. It's a brain connective tissue problem. Movement disorders like Parkinson's disease, same thing. Seizure disorders, same thing. Anytime you have fibrosis, you've got some kind of protective response, and that protective response, when it occurs chronic and long-term, can interfere with... All right, talking connective tissue, the liquid crystalline nature of connective tissue. Anytime you have fibrosis, you're interfering with this liquid nature. Reading from Mei-Wan Ho, who's a biochemist, who has published a couple of really neat books on connective tissue, papers and books on the importance of connective tissue. Mei-Wan Ho, M-A-E-Wan, W-A-N, Ho, H-O. Quote, liquid crystallinity gives organisms their characteristic flexibility, exquisite sensitivity, and responsiveness, thus optimizing the rapid, noiseless intercommunication that enables organisms to function as a coherent, coordinated whole. We are an electrical field, people, and this electrical field is conducting electrical energy and processing information. But we are not just electrical fields, we're walking computers, and you want to keep the system as pure as possible. Now, fibrosis and fiber formation it plays an important role. It's a protective response. It's a way the body protects itself. It's like inflammation in your ankle when you break your ankle. This inflammatory response is critical to understand because it's important for health. But when we have long-term chronic fibrosis, long-term chronic inflammation, that's where you run into a problem. Anytime you have fibrosis, you've got a protective response. Fibrosis is about immunity. It's about protection. And the answer to taking care of fibrosis is not to shut down the immunity and the protection. It's not to take an anti-inflammatory. This is how doctors think. But it's not an appropriate response if we're going to be leveraging the power of the body to heal itself. You shut down inflammation, you shut down the protective response. What you got to figure out is what's causing the inflammation, what's causing the breakdown. You can think of the body or an organ system that is fibrotic, whether it's the brain or whether it's the heart or whether it's the kidneys or whether it's the nervous system, as in multiple sclerosis. You could think of this kind of hardening, if you will, this fibrosis, as like the body forming a shell, a protective shell around a traumatized area. Just like it's like the body metaphorically curling up into a hard ball, like a tortoise going into its shell. And this is the hallmark sign, not just of disease, but of the aging process itself. Hardening equals aging. On the other hand, flexibility is about youth, freedom of movement, fluidity, flow. These are the markers of good health, the markers of youthfulness. Hardening is about aging, flexibility is about youth. Hardening, fibrosis is about disease, flexibility, freedom of movement is about health. In fact, you could apply this dichotomy of stiffness and hardening and resistance to flexibility and to flow. You can apply this document to life itself, to how we live our lives. The ability to adapt and flow and roll with the punches, to bend without breaking, this is the key element of a good life. This is the key element of good health. This is the key element of good relationships with the world, with our loved ones, with each other. In relationships, the ability to adapt and adjust is probably the single most important quality for having good relationships. It's the single most important quality for getting along with each other, with our kids, with our parents, with our neighbors, with our friends, with our spouses. And in my opinion, the ability to be adaptable and to be fluid is the key quality to have when it comes to how we relate to the events and the circumstances and the experiences in our lives. I was on Clyde Lewis's show yesterday. Maybe you heard it. We were talking about depression. We were talking about the mental and emotional aspects of depression. And what we said was that depression is a type of resistance. It's when we resist what is. So it's not just physical diseases that involve this sense of blockage and resistance and hardening. It's mental health issues and emotional health issues. Resisting what is the ultimate cause of depression. Think about it. If you're depressed, you don't like what's happening. Now, I'm not saying you got to like everything that's going on in your life, but to resist what is a fool's errand. Once it is, and to resist it doesn't work. It's already there. And we go through our lives resisting what shows up. And this is why we get sick. And this is why we get sick physically. It's why we get sick mentally and emotionally. Not saying you got to accept I'm not saying that you have to accept what occurs in the sense that you may want to change it for tomorrow. You may want to change what's happening now in the future. But in the present, to resist what is occurring is a recipe for disaster. And this is where resistance becomes such a big problem in our lives. It becomes a problem in our lives mentally, emotionally, and physically. It becomes a problem as well. The notion of getting older is or of how the body ages is the accumulation of long-term hardening, long-term resistance, long-term inability to adjust. Homeostasis is the ability to adjust. This is what the hallmark sign of a living system is, the ability to adjust. Scientists call it homeostasis. That means the body's ability to pull the ups down and the downs up and keep us going in a middle ground, what Buddhists call the middle way. You got to be in the middle way in the body, and all living systems, this is how they work. They pull the ups downs and the downs up. Homeostasis. Keeping things within a narrow window. When we're sick, that doesn't happen. And the reason that doesn't happen is because of a hardening, a resistance to flow. Now, from a mental perspective, it's crappy thinking and crappy feelings. This is what accounts for the emotional, mental resistance. But from a physical perspective, it's sugar. It's leaky gut syndrome. It's stuff getting into the bloodstream long-term, chronically, through a broken down digestive tract. It's eating the wrong foods. It's digestive toxicity. It's dysbiosis, messed up gut bacteria. All of this leads to a condition called dirty blood. Dirty blood is the quintessential example of a fluid system that is in resistance. Dirty blood is fibrotic blood. That's when I say dirty blood, I'm talking about fibrotic blood. Yes, the blood becomes fibrotic. It clogs, and we don't adjust, we don't deliver. And by the way, when the blood's circulating, it's generating an electrical charge. So as this fibrotic condition occurs, we become less electrical via the blood. All right, I'm Pharmacist Ben. You're listening to The Bright Side on the Genesis Communication Network. We will be back with your phone calls right after this. On our next Bright Side episode, we will be talking about the blood and the importance of the blood as a form of connective tissue. Yes, everything we've been talking about connective tissue includes the blood. The blood becomes fibrotic. The blood must be fluid, obviously. Of course, the blood has an especially important role to play. It's probably the most important of the connective tissues because it is a homogeneous unit within a homogeneous unit. Connective tissue is all one unit, but within that unit you have the blood, which runs from head to toe, and it is a unifying force within a unifying force, and it is majorly electrical. And while fibrosis anywhere is a problem, fibrosis in the blood, such as the kind that follows leaky gut syndrome, when I talk about dirty blood, I'm basically talking about fibrotic blood, or at least that's one of the major components of major properties of dirty blood. It's fibrotic. Fibrosis represents protection. The blood gets contaminated. It protects itself by wrapping fibers around or microscopic fibers around toxins. It also wraps cells around these toxins, and you end up with these things called circulating immune complexes, CICs. This is where autoimmune disease comes from, by the way. All right, we will continue this. We will continue talking about the blood and the connective tissue and fibrosis, and we'll also talk about how you can use the glucogel caps. If you're thinking ahead, if you're one jump ahead and you think you can use the glucogel caps for your blood, you're probably right. You can use it for your blood too. All right. Let's see what we got here. Oh, I love this. Collagen may help protect brain against Alzheimer's disease. Well, now you know why. Collagen is a major component of connective tissue. Scientists from Gladstone Institute of Neurological Disease have discovered that collagen protects brain cells against amyloid beta proteins. That's the fibers that are responsible for, or thought to be responsible, at least at the very end stage, for dementias. Of course, you guys know that it has to do with a broken down connective tissue if you've been listening to this program. Use of dietary supplements remains stable in the United States, although, this is interesting, multivitamin use decreases. I don't know what that's about. Probably because we have so many specialty formulations out there now that people don't feel like they need to take just one multiple vitamin. A multiple vitamin functions as the minimum wage of supplementation. It's the minimum wage. It's the basics. The Mighty 90 Essential Nutrients are like a multiple vitamin. Of course, we also have the Ultimate Daily, which is another multiple vitamin. Multiple vitamins are good and they're important, but in the way that minimum wage is important. Nobody wants to work for less than minimum wage. You don't want to have minimum wage. You don't want to have less than minimum wage nutrition. But in my humble opinion, you want maximum wage. You want maximum wage when it comes to money, and you want maximum wage when it comes to good health and it comes to supplementation. And this is why we have so many different ways that you can supplement. But the minimum wage is a multiple vitamin. Scientific reports, the spice of life, cinnamon cools your stomach. Adding cinnamon to your diet can cool the body up to 2 degrees. Heat is the enemy. The body doesn't like to run hot. The body likes to run cool and stable. Cinnamon has been known for many years. On this program, we've been talking about it for years, but it's been known traditionally, probably for centuries, as a spice that can help get you off, that can help amplify sweet flavors, and it can help improve sugar metabolism. And this is part of the reason, part of the benefit of stabilizing blood sugar is the body doesn't run as hot. I would be putting, if I was a diabetic or I was interested in if I was interested in anti-aging, I suppose I am, but I don't use cinnamon as much as I should. But if I was sick, or if I had blood sugar problems, I'd be putting cinnamon on everything. I put it in my smoothies. Wherever you have sweet, add some cinnamon. It will amplify the sweetness, and you'll get the benefits of the cinnamon as well. All right. 844-236-6010 is our number. Time to hit the phones. Let's go to Candy in Wisconsin. Good morning, Candy. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Hi, Ben. I called a few months ago and talked to you about the ketogenic diet that I started in February.
I remember.
Yeah.
How you doing?
I'm doing good.
You had the keto flu. You were going through the keto flu, I think, right? Is that you?
No, I got beyond that, and I had lost like 20-some pounds.
Very nice.
After a few months.
Okay.
But I was the one that had the Crohn's and overcome that without medication.
Wow, nice.
Between 2012 and 2015, I'd say.
Well, you sound great. You sound awesome.
Yeah. I had an annual checkup this year because my last one was last year, September. And my cholesterol numbers were on the high side for the LDL-C.
Yeah. I don't pay any attention to that. Zero attention.
I didn't either, really, and neither did my doctor, because she said she's sending more people down the path of ketogenics. So she started asking me questions about it all.
Nice. Tell her to listen to the bright side.
Yeah, no kidding. So here's my concern, though, because I did start taking ALA from Pearson's Pride is the product.
Okay. Love ALA. Alpha lipoic acid, I imagine you're talking about, right?
Yeah. And
very important supplement.
When I started taking it, I started noticing I can taste it in my breath or smell it in my breath and in my urine. And it did something to where every time I started having my greens, I could taste it in my spinach, the same taste.
That's sulfur. That's sulfur you're tasting. Has a sulfur. That's a sulfur. That's sulfur that you're tasting. Has to do with something in your digestive system. So start focusing on digestion. Use some apple cider vinegar. That might help you.
Okay, so my potassium levels were on the high side, she said.
I pay zero attention to that as well. How the heck do they know it's on the high side? What they stick it in a computer and they see what 1 million people or 2 million people have, and they compare yours to everybody else's. But how do they know yours is high for you?
It was 5.2, and it's just.
And listen, Cindy, Candy, listen. I don't care about the numbers. This is my point to you. How do they know it's high for you? What are they comparing it to? High is just a word. It has to have a context. It's high compared to what? You know what I'm saying? What does it mean, high? What's it compared to? It's compared to reference ranges, normal values. This is the most asinine, lazy, unfair way to treat somebody, to treat them as if they're a statistic or a statistical phenomena. You're not a statistic, Candy, and it's lazy medicine, and it's unfortunate because your doctor has medical bills to pay, or medical school bills to pay. She has insurance to pay. She's got bills to pay, so she's got to have a way to charge you, and the only way she can charge you is by looking at a bunch of statistics and then comparing your particular levels to those statistics, and then she becomes this statistical examining expert. And that's so unfair. A good doctor is supposed to look at you, not your statistics and not your electrolyte levels, unless they're super dramatically low. And if they were super dramatically low or high, you would be manifesting symptomology. So what's the point here? Are you okay? How do you feel, Candy?
Oh, I've been feeling good. Just, I'm not as hungry, and that's something where I have to remember to eat, type of thing.
Make sure you're eating more veggies. I would suspect if you have some mineral issue, you probably have some absorption issues. You're probably dealing with malabsorption. Apple cider vinegar with all your meals. Bone soup and vegetable juices like they're going out of style. You're beyond tangy tangerine.
I can remain eating all the greens I like and keep alpha-lipoic acid while doing keto. That's not a problem.
Of course. Okay. Now, the only thing with the greens, probably it's not even a problem because you don't want to be doing too many carbohydrates, but probably not. You can't eat that many greens. You're gonna get max out on the ability to eat greens way before you get too many carbs, in my opinion. Candy, I got to motivate, and that's our break. Thank you for your call. Appreciate it. All right, I'm Pharmacist Ben. We'll come back with more phone calls right after this on Bright Side. Okay, we are back on the Bright Side. Steve in Ontario. Good morning. What's going on, man?
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. Are you in Toronto by any chance?
Waterloo, just an hour west.
Okay. There's a great health show coming up this weekend, and I'll be doing a talk on Sunday.
Yeah, I'll see if I can make it for sure.
That'd be great. Make sure you say hi.
All righty.
All right, what's going on?
My daughter is dealing with a bit of an issue. She wants to lose a bit of weight. Okay. And she is asking me about something that she's done some research on and asked me if I would do a bit of research on it regarding the garcinia cambogia plant or something like that?
Garcinia cambogia.
Right, cambogia.
Yeah.
Now, I've done some looking at it, and I mean, it's
silly stuff.
It's been around a long time.
Steve, it's silly stuff. Okay. I mean, it may have a little bit of effect. It's got an active ingredient in there that has been used by bodybuilders to some effect. But if you have a weight problem, you don't have a Garcinia cambogia problem. In other words, she's not suffering from a Garcinia cambogia deficiency issue. So it's not like you take Garcinia cambogia and all of a sudden your biochemistry is adjusted and you lose weight. She may, best case scenario, she may lose a pound or two, and she may help her blood sugar because there is some medicinal effects. But when herbs have medicinal effects, they're minor. The biochemistry of the body is not dependent on herbs. And I've been tincturing herbs and keeping them in my pharmacy when I had a pharmacy for years. I would keep stuff on the shelf for years. And I love herbs. I love working with plants. They're magical. But the idea that you can just plant yourself back to health or herbalize yourself back to health when there's some kind of health biochemistry, some kind of messed up biochemistry, it's not true. It doesn't work that way. Your body has fail-safe mechanisms for not letting anything from the outside inside that's not a biochemical interfere with it. So yes, you can overwhelm that system certainly with a prescription drug. You can overwhelm that system, and with an herb maybe. But I'm not buying any of the stuff I hear about Garcinia cambogia. It can be supportive maybe, and it's in some supplements along with chromium and cinnamon and vanadium, and sometimes you'll see the B vitamins. It's got some supportive properties maybe. I think Young Jeffy has in a couple products, but it's not a miracle or minor problem compared to what she should be doing. How old's your daughter?
25.
Okay. How much weight does she want to lose?
I think about 20, 30 pounds.
Okay. So first things first, you got to have her going low carb first of all. Okay. Ideally low carb, high fat, but at least low carb. Okay? That's the first thing. Anybody who wants to lose weight quickly, go low carb. That's the quickest way to do it. Now, if you go high fat and do the ketogenic diet, it's even better. But if you even do paleo, which is not quite as high in fat and a little bit more protein, you'll still get benefits. The second thing is make muscle. Muscle has more energy burning capabilities than fat. So the more muscle you have, the more calories you're going to burn. So convert get as much of your tissue into lean muscle as possible. That's resistance training. All right? Okay. Low carb number 1, resistance training number 2. Ideally, she goes ketogenic, but even if not, low carb number 1 and resistance training number 2. Number 3, micronutrients. That is vitamins and minerals like you'll find in the Beyond Tangy Tangerine. Micronutrients. What that will do is that will allow her to eat less food. The more micronutrients you have, the less you want to eat, because the body is more efficient at getting energy from food. Right. So getting on the Beyond Tangy Tangerine, vegetable juices, the Healthy Start Pack, micronutrient supplementation. Okay. The next thing is use more protein, use more amino acids, particularly BCAAs, branched chain amino acids, which are satiety, that is satisfaction inducing. Satiety inducing. They induce satisfaction. More fiber for several reasons. Fiber swells the stomach, so it keeps you from eating as much, and then fiber can be reacted upon by bacteria to produce appetite suppressant compounds. These are all much more elegant strategies for losing weight than taking a Garcinia cambogia pill. Much more powerful, much more effective. You follow me?
I do.
Okay.
So there's called, man. I wanted to hear it from you.
All right, I appreciate it. And have her revving up, have her using oxygen to stimulate the flow of blood and lymph. And also cortisol, stress hormone, will keep you eating. And this is for anybody out there who's plateaued on their weight loss program, you're probably looking at a cortisol issue. This is for anyone out there who's doing everything they're supposed to be doing, supposedly they're eating right and ketogenic or whatever, and they still can't lose weight. You got a cortisol problem. That's a stress hormone problem. And that's where relaxation techniques become very, very important, among other things. All right, I'm going to motivate Steve. Have a beautiful day, bro. Talk to you later. Thanks. All right, let's go to Alan in California. Good morning. Welcome to the Bright Side.
Hi, this is actually, my name is Jenna. I'm Al's wife. I'm calling for him.
Okay.
He was at his cardiologist day before yesterday, and he had a blood test, and it came out. He didn't talk to the doctor about this, but his B, as in boy, NP, came out to be 844, and he has fluid on his lungs. And then the doctor went on vacation.
How old's your husband?
He's 77.
Okay, he's slowing down. The movement of his body is slowing down. Stuff's starting to leak out. That's basically what you're looking at here. Now, there's a lot of things he's going to have to do, but he's 77, so we got to do things pretty quickly here. Okay?
Really healthy.
Well, no, he's not. Don't say that.
Okay.
Well, obviously not. He's got fluid accumulating.
Right.
Okay. He may feel okay. That's great. God bless him. But you see, I didn't mean that to sound. That sounded mean.
No,
I didn't want to sound mean. But I'm just telling you, we got to face what's going on here. Okay? So he might be in good shape for a 77-year-old guy. That's great. But if he wants to be in better shape, he's going to have to start stimulating. First things first. He's clogging up, and stuff is leaking out. So we got to get the system moving. Got to get it more dynamic. I would be getting him on a rebounder as soon as possible, or have him get a slant board, or even if he wants to go all out, an inversion machine where you hang upside down. This is in the interest of declogging or of opening up the lymph. Usually when there's clogs and fluid starting to accumulate in the lungs or in the in the bottom of the body, things are starting to stagnate, and the lymph is getting, that's caused by the lymph getting clogged. So opening up the lymph is important. Now, if you want to work more in the long term, food is why lymph gets clogged, and food is why the blood system gets clogged. So he's going to have to start working with foods too. But quickly, you want him hanging upside down, moving his body around, somehow opening up the clogged lymph. That make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
Deep breathing will also help him. Slow, deep breathing. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
How about nutrition? He eats a lot.
Yes, let me give you some nutritional ideas here, okay? Get him on the Healthy Start Pack. Have him eating as less food, as little food as he needs, always, but just less food, and get him on the Healthy Start Pack. Have him grinding up his food, using protein smoothies, vegetable juices. This is all in the interest of him getting nutrition without having to deal with too much digestion. He's probably got something going on in the digestive system. So liquid nutrition, probiotics, good bacteria, ultimate enzymes. Digestive enzymes will do double duty. They'll help thin his blood a little bit, and they'll also improve digestion. You're working on the digestive system here. Moving his body around, I do not want to understate that. That's very, very important. And then also the deep breathing. As far as nutrition goes, as far as food nutrition goes, get him on bone soup and vegetable juices.
Okay.
Aloe vera might help him as well. Hey, I want to get one more call in, my dear. I hope I helped you out. But think about movement, moving the body around. Things are starting to stagnate. All right?
Got it.
Thank you, ma'am. Have a beautiful day. Okay. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off there. Hey, Carl, the Truth Raider.
Good morning, Ken.
You get the last word, buddy. What's going on?
All right. Hey, the pharmaceutical industry is at it again. Another miracle drug called Opdivo hydrochloride. It's supposed to be an anti-cancer drug miracle. But its side effects can include death. So tell the folks out there what you think about all these wonderful
chemotherapy.
You're
talking about chemotherapy?
No, it's Opdivo. I believe it's a medication. It's supposed to be an alternative to chemotherapy.
I hadn't heard of this. Opdivo?
Opdivo, yeah.
Spell it for me.
Opdivo.
You sure it's not chemotherapy, Opdivo?
You can check into it, but it seems like it's something that you can take orally, or something that you can take as a medication.
Oh, it's one of those. It's one of those like Humira type things.
Yeah.
I think it's like an immune. It works on shutting down the immune system. This is how they work with autoimmune disease, and this is how they work with rheumatoid arthritis. And now they're trying to apply it to cancer. Is that right? For lung cancer? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, that's what.
Yeah, it's just a way to shut down the immune system.
Yeah, I know.
That's basically what you're talking about here. There's part of the immune system that goes haywire. We end up with various diseases. You shut down the immune system. That's basically the concept. Now, if you have cancer, I'm not saying don't do chemotherapy. Yeah, that's everybody has to make their own decisions. But if you got cancer, there's a reason why. You want to calm the body down, not put another burden on the body to have to process, in my opinion. All right. That's all the time we have for today. Thank you for listening, friends. To the bright side, please check out our skin health products at truthtreatments.com and have yourselves a beautiful, wonderful, awesome, spectacular day. We will talk to y'all later. Bye for now.